Hey guys, it's me, Betty Jean, and today I just wanted to do a video for you explaining what all of my favorite Morphe brushes were. I basically just went through and did this pretty basic everyday look for me, kind of running through how I use each of my favorite brushes. I definitely have many more brushes that I use for other things, but these are just the brushes that I use pretty much on the daily for the most part. So if you want to see what my favorite Morphe brushes are, then just keep watching. So we're just going to run through this kind of in the order that I do my makeup, and there's going to be little clips of me using these brushes as well. My first brush is the Morphe M439. And now for the most part, I don't use a foundation brush to apply my foundation. I usually use my beauty blender. But when I do want to use a brush on myself, and I always use it on clients, I always reach for this brush. You can kind of see I just go through and I kind of buff and dab it into my skin. It's the perfect foundation brush in my opinion. I love how short and dense the bristles are. It just spreads the product out so nice without it being cakey or sucking it all up. It's literally the perfect foundation brush. So for concealer, I always use a beauty blender. I never, ever use a brush for my concealer, so we're just gonna skip right past that and move right on to setting my face with powder. For my under eyes, I always reach for my M438. It's just the perfect, long, tapered shape to fit right underneath my eyes. And this is the only job that I use this brush for. It's just the perfect thing for its job. For setting the rest of my face, I've been using the E53 for such a long time. I love this brush. It's just such a nice dome shape. Even before I had that brush before, this one I used to set under my eyes as well. It's just a really nice shape. It gets all those spots on my face. It's nice and soft and fluffy, but not too fluffy where it's just gonna spread your powder everywhere and make it go flying. I mean, it's just a brush to set powder on your face. It's not rocket science, but this one's definitely my favorite. For bronzer, I love the Morphe R2. It's just the perfect size for bronzing the skin and blending out that product without there being skips or patches. And you can see it just fits on my cheek area and underneath my chin and around my forehead. Just so nice, and it's so quick. This is a staple. I don't think a day goes by where I don't use this. For the most part, I definitely go more towards bronzing than contouring just on the daily, but on days that I do want to contour, I reach for the Morphe R10. And I typically do one or the other. I don't normally do both, but just for the sake of this video, you can see that I kind of inserted a clip of me using this for contouring after I bronzed, and it just fits in that hollow of the cheek so nice to create a nice definition. I like that it's short, but it's not too short, and it's dense, but it's not too dense. It's just the perfect size and shape for contouring the face. And I probably should mention it just for those of you that it's still a little unclear on what to use. I always use powder, bronzer, and contour. I do use creams sometimes, but when I do that I use my beauty blender. But for these brushes, it's for powder. I wouldn't use these with cream. I just don't think it would work out too well. For blush, I use the M530, and it's just this perfect natural hair, fluffy, not too fluffy brush to help disperse the product on my cheeks. I mean, it's a blush brush, it's not anything rocket science. I just find the density of it to be perfect for laying down the right amount of product, and it's really easy to build up with this as well. I hate going in with blush and it either be the blush is too pigmented or the brush is too dense and it packs way too much. This one I find just lays the correct amount for me, and I can always build up if the product itself is too sheer. For highlighting, I love the M501 the most out of every highlighting brush I've used. I just find this one to be the perfect tapered shape. It lays down that product so nice. It's perfect. It fits on the top of my cheekbones, my nose, my cupid's bow, chin and forehead if I feel like doing that day. It's just the perfect brush for highlighting. I recommend this to everybody. It's perfection. For eyes, I just did a pretty basic look, just what I would do quickly just to get it rolling. The first brush I have is the brush that I use to set my eyeshadow primer with just a light bone colored eyeshadow, and this is the Morphe E23. It literally isn't that important. All I do is set that eyeshadow primer, but I just find the shape to be so nice for laying down that product without it being too much. kind of an unnecessary tool, but I use it every day, so I thought I would include it. This next brush is the R37. You will see this in almost every tutorial that I put up. This is just my favorite brush for laying down that very first transition shade in the crease. It's just the perfect length and the perfect thickness. It's just, it does its job well and it does it quick, and that's why I love it. This next brush I use almost every time I do my makeup. Sometimes I use different brushes depending on what I'm going for. But typically for that second color that I lay down in my crease, I use the M513. It's similar to that first one, it's just a little shorter and a little fatter. So I find it's a really good one to use after that first one, just to lay down that darker color and help create that gradient in the crease. Next I have the Morphe E17. This one is one of my absolute favorite brushes for the eyes. It's just so good at laying down product in that outer corner of the eye. It's just the perfect shape. I love the length of it. It's just so good for placing that product right in that outer corner. And I even use it to kind of smudge into the crease sometimes if that's what I'm going for. I have so many uses for this brush, but it's just so good in the crease in the outer corner. So I actually don't have a favorite lid shadow brush just to pat color on the lid from Morphe, because I just have so many random eyeshadow brushes from e.l.f. and from Ipsy bags, and it's just an eyeshadow brush, so just use whatever you have. We're just gonna move right along. For the lower lash line, the E18 is my favorite pencil brush. It's just so short and dense, and it really packs that color on so close to the lash line, and it's really easy to smoke out with this. It's my favorite pencil brush, that's all I have to say about it. Next I have the M213, and this teensy weensy tiny little brush is just so perfect for packing on color on the inner corners. I never thought I would need this brush until I had this brush, and now I don't think I can use anything but this brush for that job. I didn't record myself using this brush because I just honestly forgot. I always do my brows off camera. The E29 is what I always use to fill in my eyebrows with my dip brow. It's just, I love the spoolie on the end. I love the shape of the angle. It's short and it's dense and it's really thin. I've been using this for years. Like, it's so old that the name's pretty much rubbed off. It's just my favorite brow brush, and I had to include it because this is the one I will use every single day. Even if I don't do any other makeup, I always fill in my eyebrows, and this is the one that I always use. So those are all of my favorite brushes. I hope you found this helpful. If you're trying to learn which brushes to use or which ones to get, those are my staples that I find that would be just good ones to have in your everyday collection. Let me know in the comments what your favorite brushes are, whether they're Morphe or other brushes. Do you have any of the brushes I mentioned today? Let me know what you want to see in the next video. If you like these kinds of videos, please give it a thumbs up so that I know. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you in the next video. Okay, bye. For the most part, I use bronze. That's not how I wanted to say that. For the most, why is my wallet in the background? Ugh. I'm not gonna say Morphe every time. I'm dying, it's okay. So that's it, that's all I have today. No, that's not what I'm saying. Come on.